listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. If you have tuned into this podcast before, welcome back. You know the deal. But if this is your first time listening, then welcome and thanks for joining me. I'm a relationship coach, and although I work with people who are dealing with all kinds of relationship challenges, I specialize in helping people who are engaging in some form of infidelity. Maybe they're cheating on their partner, their spouse. Maybe they're the other person, and they're involved with someone who's cheating on their partner or their spouse. Maybe something slightly different is going on. And I do this coaching without any shaming, blaming, or judging. I have a neutral take on infidelity, and I firmly believe that we're all entitled to guidance and support that respects the fullness of our humanity and the complexity of our situations, especially when we're doing something that other people may think is wrong or that we even are a little bit uncomfortable with. So if you're dealing with a messy moment in your life, I can help you address your situation as a puzzle to be solved rather than a big, bad problem that has to be fixed or is hard to be fixed or seems impossible to fix. So if that sounds like you, let's work together. You can learn more about me and schedule an introductory coaching session with me at mariemurphyphd.com. All right. Today, we're finally going to start talking about the experience of being the other person. In recent, and to be perfectly honest, in not so recent weeks, I've gotten messages from podcast listeners saying things to the effect of, hey, your podcast is great, but how about devoting some attention to the experience of being the other person? And it's absolutely true that the experience of being the other person in an infidelity situation has been pretty much completely neglected on this podcast to this point. And that is not because I don't consider these experiences important. On the contrary, I absolutely do. And I apologize for the delay in getting to these topics. But here we are. Today, we're finally going to start talking about the experience of being the other person and some of the things that can come along with that. And just to be clear, definitionally, if that's a word, just to be clear with definitions, what I mean by being the other person is that you are involved with someone who is ostensibly in a committed monogamous relationship with someone else, or something along those lines. Sometimes it gets a little more complicated than that, but that's basically the idea. You're in a relationship with someone who's committed to someone else, and they're not really supposed to be in a relationship with you. It is, of course, possible to be both cheating on your partner and to also be the other person for someone else at the same time if your affair partner is also partnered. Wait a minute. Maybe I didn't even say that right. It's possible for this to get really complicated. Maybe you're partnered and you're engaging with someone outside of your partnered relationship with someone who is also partnered. So there's all these different layers that could be going on. That's what I mean to say. And, if you're in multiple positions like this at once, that can be a lot to juggle in so many ways. It can be a real logistical and emotional funhouse or house of cards. Today, though, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to focus on a few of the things you may be experiencing if you're the other person in someone else's affair and you are not also cheating on someone you're committed to. In other words, being the other person in someone else's infidelity situation is your only relationship, or your primary relationship at least. Maybe you're seeing other people too, but it's not that serious. And your relationship with the person who's committed to someone else is the main thing on your agenda. I am also, for simplicity's sake, going to keep my comments in this episode focused on the hypothetical scenario that you are currently the other person and that this is an unusual occurrence for you. Maybe it's the only time you've ever been the other person. Maybe it's happened once before, but it's not an ongoing pattern for you. And I'm clarifying this because some people do habitually get involved with people who are ostensibly in committed relationships with other people. And a pattern of getting involved with people who technically aren't available is in some ways different than finding yourself in this situation once or infrequently. If that is your pattern, you will still find much of this episode relevant to you. But I'll speak more specifically to folks who find themselves habitually, repeatedly getting involved with people who are in other relationships another time. Okay, so with all of that background established, here are some of the things you may be grappling with if you are the other person. You may, first and foremost, have a lot of intense and possibly conflicting feelings about the relationship going on. You may have met someone that you really like and enjoy and feel very compatible with. If your relationship has been going on for a while, you may care about this person very much. You may love them deeply. And you may feel sad that the two of you didn't somehow meet under different circumstances or resentful of the fact that they're currently committed to someone else. It may seem like you found yourself in a situation that is fundamentally unfair. And if you believe that, or you believe something like that, you may feel some frustration. You may also believe that you are the least powerful person in the equation. It may seem like your relationship with your special person is contingent upon their availability. You may be at the mercy of their schedule and how much time they can get away from their marriage or their family or whatever pre-existing commitments they have. It may be frustrating to be involved with someone who has restrictions on their availability. And moreover, you may not like the reason these restrictions exist. You may just want to spend more time with them, and you may feel sad or lonely spending time without them that you'd rather be spending with them. You may also feel resentful of them for not finding more ways to spend time with you, or jealous of their spouse or partner for having more time with them than you get to spend with them. And it may seem like there's very little you can do to change any of this. If you and your person have been involved for a while and have been talking about the future, you may be very interested in their orientation to their marriage or their primary relationship. Of course, you might become interested in their orientation to their relationship at any point, but it may start to become especially important to you if you and your person have professed your love for each other and have started to talk about them ending their marriage or their relationship with the other person to clear the way for the two of you to be together officially or publicly. And if your person isn't dealing with their primary relationship in the way you would like them to, maybe less than thrilled about what's going on and anxious about how things are going to develop. You may regularly listen to your person tell you about everything that is wrong with their marriage or their primary relationship and everything they don't like about their spouse or their primary partner. You may be the person they confide in about all of their relationship woes, and there may be quite a long list of these relationship woes. And because of this, you may believe that there is plenty of evidence that they should just end that relationship already. It may seem crystal clear to you that they're staying in that primary relationship for all of the wrong reasons. And you may be sure that you know them well enough to see that. And it may be heartbreaking for you to listen to them tell you how miserable they are in their marriage and not see them take any steps to leave that relationship or even, consider taking any steps towards leaving that relationship. Or if they're talking about taking steps but aren't taking them, that may be heart-wrenching to witness. If your person has told you in no uncertain terms that they're going to leave their marriage or their primary relationship, and time keeps passing without any signs of them doing anything, you may wonder where to draw the line between being patient and understanding and waiting too long, What does it even mean to wait too long? How long is too long? How do you know if they're sincere in their intentions to leave their marriage or being honest with you about what they want, what they plan to do? How do you know if they're being, how do you know if you're being delusional and trusting them to follow through on what they say they're going to do? You know, these are these are profoundly difficult questions to grapple with, especially because you may also feel lonely and isolated. A lot of folks that I talk to who are the quote other person, unquote, are keeping their relationship a secret. And sometimes it's kind of fun to have a secret, but sometimes it isn't, especially if you've been keeping the secret for a long time. If you and your partner have been involved for a while, you may resent not being able to tell other people about your relationship or talk to other people about the problems in your relationship. And you may be unhappy about not being able to do things together as a couple. You may have people asking you why you're single, and you may wish that you could tell them that actually you aren't single. You are, in fact, very much involved with someone you care about a great deal. You may also wish that your person's situation wasn't what it was so that the two of you could just be an official couple already and you wouldn't have people asking you why you're single in the first place. You may also feel sad seeing your person keep up appearances in their marriage and their family life. Maybe you see them posting photos on social media of them doing things with their partner or their family, looking all happy and perfect, while you're sitting at home alone. Or maybe the two of you share a social circle or a professional network, and you have to interact with them and their spouse and their family. And it kills you to see your person interacting with their family as if your relationship with them doesn't exist. You may be short on people to talk to you about your situation. Maybe there are a few folks in your life who know about your relationship, but maybe you start to get the sense that they've gotten a little freaked out by what you're doing, or maybe they've even been overtly judgy. Something I hear from folks who are in the other person position regularly is that in the initial stages of their relationship with someone who's married or committed, their usual confidants are excited to hear all the details. It's exciting. It's a real life soap opera. There's so much interesting drama. You know, my friend's affair, or my friend's relationship with someone who's having an affair. It's exciting stuff for a minute. But then once the situation becomes a longer term thing, sometimes the friends lose interest or become more uncomfortable being aware of the details of your deception and infidelity and so forth. And I think this reflects the broader cultural response to infidelity in our society. On the one hand, we are fascinated by it. And on the other hand, we fear it. When it's happening to someone else, we want front row seats to view the action. But when we start to think that it could happen to us, we sometimes lose our appetite. It's also possible that you feel uncomfortable being party to someone else's infidelity. You may feel really bad that your person is lying to someone else and stepping outside of the commitments they made to someone else. And you may not like being involved in that. But it may also seem really complicated because although you're a willing participant in the relationship with your person, you aren't the one who is choosing to cheat on a spouse. It may seem rather unfair that you're inadvertently participating in a behavior that you theoretically prefer to avoid. You may feel guilty about interfering in someone else's relationship and family life. And you may feel proactively or preemptively responsible for the possible future end of a marriage and possible future reconfiguration of a family. If your person has kids, you may be worried about what the kids will think of you in the future and how you'll build a relationship with them in the future if you and your person stay together in the long run. And along those lines, you may be worried about what anyone or everyone will think of you if your person ends their marriage and chooses to continue a relationship with you. You may be worried about specific people's opinions should your relationship become public, Or you may be worried about everyone's opinions when your relationship becomes public, or if your relationship becomes public. And for a lot of people, that is very stressful stuff to think about. And as if all of that weren't enough to contend with, you may also wonder what things would be like for you and your person outside of the affair bubble. You may wonder if your relationship would have ever gained any traction in the first place had it not been for the excitement and transgression associated with the infidelity. You may wonder if the relationship would be viable under so-called ordinary circumstances. And pondering these questions may take up a lot of your time and energy, since there really isn't any way to find out what the relationship would be like outside of the affair bubble without actually exiting the affair bubble and giving ordinary life together a try. And in order to do that, you may need to do a lot of reconfiguring of circumstances. In the absence of actually exiting the affair bubble with your person, you may drive yourself crazy trying to predict what the future could possibly hold. On the one hand, the two of you may be madly in love with each other, and you may desperately desire a chance to have a relationship outside of the affair bubble. But you might also be terrified that your relationship might not hold up in ordinary conditions. In summary, it may be really hard to decide whether you want to start or continue or end a relationship with someone who's committed to someone else, because there are so many considerations beyond the simple matter of whether or not you like each other or love each other or want to be together. All of the considerations that I've mentioned here, in addition to all the ones that I haven't mentioned, because I know I didn't list them all, may seem really difficult to figure out or make sense of. Your situation may seem really complicated, and it may seem like other people have more power over what happens than you do. For example, it may seem like you're just waiting for your person to end their marriage or their primary relationship so the two of you can be together and get on with your lives already. It may seem like you're just waiting to see what happens. I want to offer you two possibilities. The first is that it just might be in your power to decide how complicated or simple your relationship situation is going to be. We tend to think that other people make things complicated for us, or the facts of our circumstances determine whether relationships are simple or not. But what if that isn't how it works? What if that's not the way it works at all? What if we get to determine how simple or complicated our relationships will be? What if that's just a matter of how we're thinking about the situation? Closely related to that point is the second possibility I'll offer you, which is that you just might have more power in your relationship situation than you currently recognize. For instance, you always get to decide whether you want to engage in any given relationship at all. You can always choose to end your relationship with your person. And this may not seem like a helpful thing for me to emphasize, because so often we kind of believe that we actually don't have a choice about whether or not we stay with someone. We sometimes think that if we love someone and they love us and we're great together, it means that the relationship can't end or shouldn't end. But what we really mean when we say things like that is that we don't want the relationship to end. Because of course, relationships can end, even if there are things that are really great about the relationship. I do want to emphasize, though, that it's okay to not want a relationship to end. It's really important, though, to get clear on why you don't want it to end and why you're choosing to stay in it, despite whatever reservations you may have about it or whatever frustrations you may have with the situation, if you are indeed choosing to stay or have been choosing to stay thus far. So try this out. Think about the relationship that you're currently in which you're the other person, and ask yourself why you're choosing to participate in it. See if you can get really clear on why you've been making the choice to be in this relationship without judging or evaluating your reasons. The point right now is not to assess whether your reasons for being in this relationship are quote unquote good or quote unquote bad. The point is just to get as clear as you can on why you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes getting clear on what we're getting out of a relationship and why we're staying with someone who is involved with someone else, even if we don't like the fact of their involvement with someone else, shows us that we're okay with the status quo. That's a possibility here. I want to be really clear that getting clear on what you're getting out of a relationship doesn't have to lead to ending the relationship. It could lead to continuing the relationship. It could lead to any number of things. But if you're not okay with the status quo and you want to make some kind of a change, you've got to start by being really honest with yourself about what you're getting out of the current scenario. So, what do you like about this relationship you're in? What do you appreciate about it? What benefits does it provide you? What purposes does it serve in your life? Asking yourself these questions helps you reclaim awareness of your own power if you've been feeling relatively powerless. Whatever you may not like about being in the relationship in which you are the other person, you are choosing to participate in it, and recognizing the specific reasons why you are making that choice leads to greater self-awareness, and self-awareness is power. So after you've identified why you're choosing to participate in the relationship you're in, ask yourself what you want to happen with this relationship. This can get really interesting really quickly. Often, when I ask people who are in the other person role or other person position what they want to happen with the relationship, they tell me something like, well, what I want isn't possible, or I don't even bother thinking about that because I'm so consumed by the day-to-day drama of the situation. Or sometimes they tell me, well, I don't really know what I want. I don't really know what I would want to happen with the relationship. Here's the deal, people. If you don't know what you want, or if you believe it isn't possible to get what you want, you are not going to get what you want. I know that sounds tautological because it is tautological. But I say it this way because so many of us aren't really clear on what we want or aren't really willing to own our desire for what we want. And then we bemoan the fact that we aren't as satisfied with our relationships or with our lives as we'd like to be. When we know what we want, it's a lot easier to make decisions about what we are and are not willing to do. So for instance, if you know you would like to have a relationship with your person outside of the affair bubble, that provides clarity from which you can then make other decisions. Clarity about what you want does not guarantee that other people will do what you want them to do, of course, but that isn't a problem. Clarity about what you want allows you to take decisive steps, no matter what anyone else does. So, for example, if you know you'd like to continue your relationship with your person without them being married or committed to someone else, that clarity might lead you to tell them that. And of course, they might say any number of things in response. We don't know how they'll respond. They might say, no, I love you, but I'm never going to leave my marriage. Then you have a choice to make. Do you want to continue your relationship with this person, even if they're planning to stay married to their spouse? Or do you want to end your relationship with them? You may not love either one of those options. You may wish that other options were on the table. But if those are your choices, that's what you have to work with. And wishing that other options were on the table doesn't help you make the most of the choices that you do have. Wishing other options were on the table keeps us stuck in life. Or maybe you tell that same thing to your person and they say in response that they love you and they want to be with you, but they need some time to begin the process of ending their marriage. And if you hear this, you might feel excited and hopeful, or you might feel rather anxious, or you might feel excited and hopeful and anxious. You might have hoped that your person would have said something like, yes, I want to be with you too. And I'm going to go home and ask for a divorce right now. And they, if they didn't say that, you might feel a little bummed. But you have choices here too. You could decide that you need a different answer if you're going to stay in the relationship for any longer. You could say, look, that's not good enough. Either you get a divorce next week or I'm out of here. Or you could decide that you're willing to wait for your person to figure things out for a certain amount of time. You could decide to use this certain amount of time, this defined amount of time, to focus on managing your anxiety during this period instead of spending the time obsessing about what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. You may not get to force events to develop exactly as you'd like them to. You may not be able to compel other people to do exactly what you'd like them to do. That still doesn't mean you don't have any power in the situation. You always have the power to take a look at how you are participating in your relationship and decide if you want to continue doing things the way you have been or start doing things differently. And doing this, making use of this choice is so much better than allowing other people or external circumstances to dictate our experiences of our relationships or to dictate our experience of life as a whole. And one of the implications of this is that even if you would really like your relationship with your person, with this person who's involved with someone else to work out, and it doesn't, you can still be okay. I'll say that again. When you learn how to take responsibility for how you're participating in your relationships, you can be okay, even if the relationship that you're currently in, that you'd currently like to work out, doesn't work out. You can be okay no matter what. And saying this is not to discount any of the specific things that are amazing about your person and amazing about your relationship with them. But it is to say that if you want love and connection, you are never dependent upon one particular person to experience those things. Sometimes the ending of one relationship creates the opening that's needed in your life for you to meet someone else who's even more right for you. Now, I know it's one thing to hear this and think, yeah, that makes sense. But I can tell you that putting this knowledge into practice takes practice and dedication and guidance. And that's what I'm here for. If you would like my help navigating the specific details of your relationship or your infidelity situation or your transition from infidelity to something else, let's talk. I offer one-on-one coaching that is tailored to your specific needs. You can head on over to my website, mariemurphyphd.com, to schedule an introductory coaching session with me. No matter what's going on in our love lives, no matter what other people are doing or are not doing, we can make huge shifts in our own experience of love and life by learning how to take responsibility for all the things we have the power to control and by developing a new relationship to all the things we don't have the power to control. And this is exactly what I help people do. It's the most liberating gift you can give yourself. So if you want to get started, schedule a session with me today, mariemurphyphd.com. All right, everybody. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, I hope you'll head on over to iTunes to rate and review the show. Bye for now. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.